Construction
What
on a
up?
Sunday. I am Kaiser, and to my left is the numb slash angry slash actually very amicable in person black fan
I
Jamal Darby.
I appreciate you saying that, man. Because oftentimes I hope that people who don't know me very well just don't think I'm just some raging, just all I do is talk about sports and be mad guy in person. You
You
know
know
what I
what's
mean?
what's crazy? I've known you what 15, 16 years
Yeah,
now. How often do we talk about sports when we see each other in person?
not that much,
Not that much,
because because
honestly.
I because I really don't want to. So
Yeah,
there's no
yeah.
there's
We don't
nothing
even talk
happy
about
to talk about
music
these
or
days.
something. Yeah, like we see each other. We man, Hornets trash. Yeah, I know them motherfuckers trash. Like we don't like. It's not even when we be at games together. We don't even talk about sports. Like it's
We're like, hey man, you heard the new Benny the Butcher album? We talk about that. We don't talk
yeah, right.
about
Yeah,
sports. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
wild. But there is sports to talk about. I'll say I'll give Charlotte this. For people who don't want to believe this, Charlotte is actually a sports town. We're just not good at it, but they're a sports town
yeah.
because we are always in the headlines. But it's never for anything good. It's always for some drama or some kind of like trade rumor that doesn't benefit us in any way. It's like Hornets and Panthers trade all their first round draft picks for like some aging veteran or something. I don't know. But this week, there's actually quite a bit to talk about. We're going to talk about the Panthers first because the Hornets barely deserve our time. So do the Panthers for that matter. But they did make a move that we didn't talk about in the middle of the week after we had our show the beginning or the middle of last week. Hornets actually hired a head coach. And it was maybe a surprising hire, but really not all that surprising. All things considered, they hired former Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Dave Canales to right the ship. They also fired offensive line coach James Campen, and they parted ways with Thomas Brown, as it was reported this morning. And they also said that Dave Canales would be calling the plays offensively, so the Panthers may not even backfill the offensive coordinator position. This move was met with the mixed range of emotions from both Panthers fans and media. Ultimately, I felt like everyone just kind of shrugged, like, does this do anything for you? Like, considering Jim Harbaugh didn't even get an interview with the Panthers before he went. I mean, he went to the Chargers, and that was kind of a formality, it seems. But I mean, the head coach search consisted of no one of substance besides Ishiro Avero, who we don't even know is still going to be with the team next season. I don't know,
Right.
man. What do you think about this?
Um, to be truthful, man, there were only one of two names that were going to really move the needle for me, and one of them, as time went on, I knew just wasn't a possibility, which was Jim Harbaugh.
Right.
Like, after a couple of weeks, I just kind of came to the conclusion it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to San Diego. So my hopes of Jim Harbaugh was just kind of went out the window at some point, man. Ben Johnson was the other one who I was hopeful for, and I was a little disappointed that that we didn't get, I guess, more into the process of interviewing him another time. And after a while, I had to ask myself this question: what did we expect? What what did we realistically expect? We have an owner who throws drinks on people. We have an offensive line who consists of basically me, you, Swagner, Rodney, and a bunch of ragtag guys. We have a quarterback going to his second year. It's not like we can realistically say that this job is the most attractive. You understand what I'm saying? So, what did we realistically expect? Now, once the name Danny Canales was announced as a new head coach, just like you already said, I just shrugged my shoulders. I just said, we have to be in a position if we choose to be on the objective side, if we choose to, because if you want to be on the emotional side, Can't blame you. You know what I'm saying? But
Right,
if we
yeah.
choose to be objective, it's to be determined. You know, at the very least, Canales has gotten credit for some quarterbacks. Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield had a good year last season. So at least we have some positive things going on with that as far as him developing quarterbacks, which we think we need with Bryce Young. So to be determined, man.
I think that was the biggest factor in this hire. You got to make Young look good. It's got to be a Tua Tagovailoa situation in
Yeah,
which everyone hated him. He was the wrong pick. He sucked. Now it's like, wow, the guy is a future All Pro. If you can have that kind of turnaround with Bryce Young, it makes Tepper look really good. So you've got to get a guy in who's going to turn Bryce into the pro that everyone really, most rational fans think that he can be, right? My problem, however, is that Dave Canales did a very good job apparently with Geno Smith in Seattle, helping him get to the Pro Bowl. And then Baker Mayfield had his best season as a pro last season in Tampa Bay with
I
Canales.
feel I feel a however coming on.
However, he didn't do any of those things as the head coach. So, the head coach has to do a lot more than just develop a quarterback. When he was in Seattle and Tampa Bay, he could focus
Yeah,
on, one, just the offense. And with Seattle, he could just focus. He was the quarterback's coach. He could just focus on Geno Smith. And then Tampa Bay, which already had a better offense than Carolina anyway. They have Mike Evans. I mean, he's better than anybody on the Panthers offense. Um, you know, it's like as a head coach, there's more than just developing Bryce Young. First of all, there's the in-game stuff. In-game management loses so many games in the NFL because
don't we know? Don't we
yes,
know?
it's so nuanced. Like the NFL is a game of inches, and it really is. I mean, game of inches and seconds. The wrong call can win or lose you a game. Can he make those kind of calls? He cannot just focus on the offense. He's got a coach. I know he's going to have a defensive coordinator, but he's the head coach. He's got to know what the defense is doing. He's going to have to go to those Monday morning meetings with David Tepper. He's going to have to, not just have his say on the roster, but have the final say on the roster. There's a lot. There's a big jump from, well, he did a good job in developing these quarterbacks to, okay, now you're going to be the head coach of the worst team in the NFL. That's
Right.
why I'm kind of like, he would have been a great hire in any other position, but head coach, I think.
Yeah, and the thing is, for everything for everything you've just said, and I'm kind of highlighting what Brandon Lucas is saying in the comment section as well, man. When you have a situation, and not to be overly dramatic, but when you have a situation as dire as ours, I think we all would have preferred someone who was a lot more experienced and who we think can lead men. You understand what I'm saying? I think
Right.
that's important. We don't know if Dave Canales can do that. And when I say we don't know, we truly don't know. I'm willing to give a guy a shot, but I would have been a lot more excited if someone like a Mike Vrabel was hired, if somebody like Jim Harbaugh was hired, if somebody like a Pete Carroll was hired, because at least we know their experience lends to the fact that they can lead men. And they have all the in-game stuff. We know we can trust them with the in-game stuff, with the coaching stuff, with the big decisions coaches have to make. We don't know that about Dave Canales.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of teams saying, "Hey, we want a coach that is focused on one aspect of the game or
Right.
one side of the ball." It's okay for a coach. Most coaches are going to be offensive or defensive minded, but I go back to a guy like Ron Rivera. People will say that he was defensive minded, but that he never really just focused on the defense. Don't forget, the Panthers were the number one offense in the league. The year they went to the Super Bowl, right? So,
Absolutely.
I mean, they were a good offense too. Now, granted, they had Cam Newton, but I think it's possible to have balance in a coach. I think if you target a coach who is known for being stellar at one aspect, which in this case, Dave Canales is quarterback development, you're going to run into issues, I think, down the line where, close games, having the right players out there. We just don't know. I'm willing to give at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
just lump him in with the other 6 coaches, and maybe he'll do better than some of those guys. And if he
Right.
doesn't, well, we'll be talking about someone new next season. So
And and the thing is, I remember Ron Rivera's first, we'll say first maybe 2 years here. He even spoke about the fact that even he was on a learning curve those
right,
first 2 years, and we as fans we have to ask ourselves: are we going to be patient with the learning curve that he's probably going to have to endure with his first couple of seasons here? You understand what I'm saying? We went through just the most atrocious year that we could have witnessed last year, and to ask fans to have patience again is a tough ask. And not only that, but now that we're hiring an inexperienced coach who is quote unquote offensive minded, it's that much more important to keep a Vero around now, in my opinion, because we want to build off the one positive thing we had going
yeah.
on last season. We don't want that to drop off. We
But
can't afford for that to drop off.
if you're a Vero, how do you feel knowing that you got passed over for the head coaching spot for a guy who might even be less qualified for the position than you are from another
You,
team?
you may feel like Steve Wilkes.
You may feel like, right, like I'd feel some kind of way. Like, why would you bring in an outsider? Which is another reason I say clearly this was the Bryce Young move.
Yeah,
Tepper
right.
knows he has to make that look good. His image is almost at this point irredeemable. Even if the Panthers win, let's say they win a Super Bowl in the next 2 or 3 years, and people are really going to be like, all right, well, Dave Tepper, he's a great owner now. He turned things around. That's not necessarily how it works, especially if you're a billionaire owner. People are always going to remember how trash you absolutely were. And Tepper, I don't even think his problem is football related necessarily. It's that he
Is it
is
is it ego related?
yes, ego related, control freak. The report that we heard this morning was about James Campen and him getting fired, and the report stated that James Campen was essentially a snitch for David Tepper in the locker room. He would report back to David Tepper the goings on in the locker room and whatnot. And you got to think that those things fueled Tepper's decision making. Why else would he have a snitch in the locker room? And maybe that's why the offensive line sucked. Your offensive line coach is more concerned about shoveling information up to the front office rather than trying to figure out why Ike Ekwonu sucked in his second season.
And then on top of that, Kaza, I don't think it's a coincidence that James Campen came into this job as one of the most heralded, highly regarded
Right.
offensive
Yeah.
line coaches in the league. You understand what I'm saying? And for that offensive line to have that kind of year last year, that kind of lends to everything you're saying, man. It's like this dude probably wasn't even focused on coaching after a while,
No, yeah.
which we saw the result of it.
I mean, I don't think you can have success in any league with a meddling owner. And as much hell as Michael Jordan got for being a meddling owner, and there was some debate about how true that was or not, I think David Tepper is a level above Michael Jordan ever
Easy,
was. And when it comes to
easy.
meddling owner, I never heard of any issues. In fact, the Hornets locker room, you never heard any issues as far as that kind of drama. They had other kind of drama, mostly legal issues, but you never heard of like somebody reporting up to Michael Jordan, like Malik Monk was the snitch in Michael Jordan's in the Hornets locker room for Michael Jordan. Um, so yeah, I think that's the biggest problem with the Panthers, and a lot of people feel like this is another yes man hire for Dave Tepper. He hired a guy that, every coordinator wants a head coaching job, right? And this was the worst job in the league. And so maybe you weren't going to get a Pete Carroll or Mike Vrabel because they're
Right.
like,
Yeah.
why I want to go why do you want another George Seifert? Like, we all remember that, right?
Yeah.
The winningest coach in NFL history comes here and goes 1-15. So
Right.
nobody wants that again. So you hire a coordinator who's going to be more than happy to step up to a head coaching position. and he is probably going to make some concessions. Like Tepper's probably like, "Hey, you got to report to me every Monday."
Which okay, which is a good segue to what I was about to say. And I think we saw the news where it was written that, hey guys, everyone's going to report to Dave Tepper, and some people would say, well, okay, isn't that kind of normal? Don't all coaches kind of report to general manager and owner? But I thought to myself, like, it's giving off Jerry Jones vibes, man. Like, that shouldn't be news per se, but when it comes to David Tepper, and more, and the more we hear, the more it sounds like he's running the Panthers like a damn hedge fund. You know what I'm saying? Like you got internal snitches and spies going on, and
There's no way you can have a successful football team with a locker room snitch. It's just impossible. You'll never
it
have that.
gives me. I'm telling you, man, it gives me Jerry Jones slash Bank of America supervisor vibes.
Which I mean, I don't understand it. Tepper's, he's older than us. Presumably, he's been around professional football much longer than we've been following it, right?
right.
He's got to know that kind of. I'm certain that nothing ever like that ever happened in the Steelers organization, which is who Tepper was involved with.
Yeah, but it begs the question: was he more of an investor or a football guy?
We know the
Yeah,
answer.
I think we know the answer to that question.
I do want to touch on this comment about Byron Leftwich.
Yeah,
You win a Super Bowl, and then the guy that follows you up, wins a playoff game. But I mean, really, Tampa took advantage of the fact they were in one of the worst divisions in football. They snuck in with a 1 win above 500 record, and won their home game because they won the division. So
oh, by the way, only scored 9 points against us. It's like, hey, let's hire the offensive coordinator for that team. Yeah.
By the way, the Tampa Bay Bucks were the number 20th ranked offense last season. And despite Baker Mayfield having a career high season, they were only 21st in passing offense last season. So, and this is a team that has Mike Evans. You got Baker Mayfield have a career year. You got Mike Evans, who should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He probably won't be because he's a wide receiver, but he's he's going to be up there. He's one of the great wide receivers. And like, you had a middling offense, like you said, you only scored 9 points against the lowly Carolina Panthers.
Right.
And then you're like, yep, that's the guy I want running my team.
That's the guy I want. I think that's the guy we should get right there. Yeah.
That's the dude.
Now, let me ask you a question, man. Despite all of this, what would make you feel better about this team going forward? Like, because I'm thinking about this, man, and this is just me kind of throwing it out there. I'm not counting on this at all. It'll be nice if Canales could bring if he could bring Mike Evans with him.
Hey, isn't Mike Evans a free agent?
He is, which is why I bring that up. You know what I mean?
Hey, if he could get Mike Evans here, even old Mike Evans, Bryce Young throwing. I mean, look at Adam Thielen, right? I mean, old Adam Thielen was our best threat. You bring Mike Evans into the mix, things might look a little bit better.
Yeah.
Really, I don't have any high expectations or any expectations for the Carolina Panthers. I just need to see a little bit of improvement. I just need to not see Bryce Young running for his life every play because the pocket collapsed immediately after the snap.
I just need to see the offense look functional next year. That's all I need to see. I need to see the offense look functional, and I need to see the offensive line give Bryce Young more than 0.3 seconds to throw the ball. If those two things happen next season, I'm fine. That should give us enough marked improvement for us to be satisfied next season.
Yo, I will definitely take Mike Allstar and Keyshawn Johnson over anybody on the Panthers offense right now. Keyshawn don't like us. I mean, he already played for us once, and he don't like us no more.
Yeah, he'll be all right. He'll be all right.
He's straight. Someone made the comment, though, at least we hired the GM before the coach. That does make me feel a little bit better about this decision.
Right.
Dan Morgan being the GM. is involved in that decision. But the jury's still out on Dan Morgan. And plus, based on what we know about David and Nicole Tepper, how much input did Dan Morgan and Bryce Young, because it's been reported that Bryce Young was consulted, whatever that means, about the decision. But to how much? How valuable was their input really? Because we know it all came down to the Teppers.
Yeah, and the thing is, man, with Bryce Young and as much as a disadvantage as he played with last year, I think I will give them credit for at least involving Bryce Young in that decision, because at this point, you put him at so much of a disadvantage. Now try your best to make him feel like, hey, I am important to this franchise. My voice does matter. What I want does matter. And if that's the case, we got to give him credit for that, man. And with the Canales hire, we can talk a lot about how maybe nobody else wanted this job. I think that's very valid. You understand what I'm saying? But at least you had the wherewithal to say, okay, this guy has somewhat of a track record for improving QB play. So let's go with this guy. So I'll give them a tad bit credit for that.
So Ejiro Evero is making the rounds. He's been interviewed by almost every team that needs a head coach. He's had second interviews with a lot of teams. He's even been interviewed by the Atlanta Falcons. Do you think he's here next season?
We better hope that those other teams just hire another guy. I'm gonna leave it at that. We just better hope. We better hope Evero. It just comes down to Evero just not having any other options.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. With the Falcons in particular, they just hired Raheem Morris, so we can kind of mark them off the list, right, man. But with these other teams, I mean, I don't know how those process. I haven't kept up enough to kind of say, what's going on there. But if I'd have a hard time not hiring Evero as my head coach. Quite honestly,
my thing is, if you're gonna make a move like hire Dave Canales, why not Evero? I don't understand that move. I mean, I do. I think it had a lot to do with Bryce Young and his development. They really felt like we went all in on drafting Bryce Young, and we need to get some returns out of it. So we need to do better by, which I'll give them credit for this. They're saying, hey, we need to do better by Bryce Young because we didn't last season, and whatever that means. Really, though, I feel like if you give him the players, if you give him the resources, Dave Canales could come in and develop him all he wants, but if receivers aren't getting open and O-line's not blocking, then it's pointless.
Which puts all the pressure on Dan Morgan now, man, because what kind of personnel decisions are we making this offseason? We don't have a first-round draft pick. You presumably want a better roster going into next season. There are a million things wrong with the offensive line. So now Dan Morgan has to be creative along with, whoever the new cap person may be. There is news that we're hiring. God, I'm bad with names sometimes, but the Kansas City front office guy that we're supposedly trying to get to the Panthers, man. So now all the pressure's on Morgan to try to improve this roster, mainly on the offensive side of the ball. So again, I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know what he can do to do that. Hopefully God can answer our prayers and having Mike Evans come over here, which would greatly improve the offense, even though it's not the main need. But we'll see, man. And Dan Morgan has a tough job this offseason with no first-round draft pick.
Do we have an all-star coaching staff again?
We don't need an all-star coaching staff. Like we talked about this a little bit last week, man. Too many voices in Bryce Young's head. You know what I mean? If you hire somebody like Canales, who's supposedly the QB whisperer, let him be that, and let him. It's a great idea to me to let the coach and the quarterback develop their relationship by themselves. That always tends to work. You know what I mean? Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, the list can go. Ron Rivera, Cam Newton. Yeah. So,
was the O-line really bad? Or
yes.
Just not healthy?
No, they were bad. I can't listen. Well, both things can be true. The offensive line was ravaged by injuries, but Ike Ekwonu doesn't have that excuse.
That's
I'm
true.
sorry.
He played every snap. He played
He played every snap
snap of last season, of every offensive snap of last season, and boy, he looked terrible.
I'll give them a little bit of grace here. When the offensive line does have the injuries that they have, it's tough to have continuity, which is the most important thing an offensive line needs. Any NFL offensive line needs continuity. You need time to gel together. The Panthers offensive line never had that time to gel together during the season because somebody was always hurt. Brady Christensen was out. Austin Corbett missed most of the season. The list can go on. However, with your left tackle, who's supposed to be your anchor for that offensive line, he does not get to have that excuse. It's that simple.
No, yeah. I'm going to, you know what? We were really hard on Icky this season, deservedly so.
Right.
But sophomore slumps do exist. New head coach, new quarterback, new offensive scheme, new offensive line coach who probably wasn't invested in your development because
he was too busy snitching on y'all. Right, going back to Dave Tepper. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say that Icky probably has a slightly better season next year. He's got to hear the talk,
right?
And he's got to. Players will act like they're not affected by it, but they are. That's
what. Let me cut you off real quick, man. He already said in the interview he sucked, and I think those were his exact words, if I remember correctly. So he knows he had a bad season, man. So let's see how he rebounds next season.
All right.
Yeah.
Any expectations for us coming into the off season?
You know what? Here's my honest answer. I don't know what to expect. That is my honest to God answer, man. I know people listen to sports shows to kind of get opinions, to get what expectations are. I truly don't know because I don't know what the Panthers can do.
Right. I'm just rolling with the punches for this upcoming season and off season. They're going to make some moves, and they're going to make some moves that look really good on paper.
I agree.
They did that last season, right? In fact, there was a lot of optimism last season. The Frank Reich hiring notwithstanding, but there was a lot. It was like, okay, and it was like, hey, if Bryce Young works out, we could be okay. But once you actually get on the field, it's a different story.
It's a different story.
I knew from the preseason, it looked kind of shaky already. Preseason doesn't count. It matters in the NFL. I think it matters a lot more than other sports. And there were already some things. I remember going to the Detroit Lions game and thinking, we don't look like we're ready to play football in 2 weeks. So we see. Oh yeah, there is a game in Munich. I'm not looking forward to that game. Actually,
me neither. We don't deserve it. Hell, we can't win a game in Mecklenburg County. What the hell are we gonna do in Germany, man? No, man.
Yeah, hey, Josh, we did talk about Tepper and his little snitches, his locker room snitches.
Hey, real quick, Kaza, what do you think about Chris Tabor getting fired with 2 years left on his contract?
Okay, so special teams was one of these small bright spots.
Bright spots, right?
Panthers.
Right.
We had a really good kicker, really good kicking team. We had a kick return for a touchdown.
Smith Marset had a pretty good year, right?
Yeah. And then you ask this man to come and be the head coach of the team, after you fire your head coach and essentially fall on the sword for the team. And then you're like, okay, well, thanks for your service. Get out of here. First of all, who are you going to hire to replace him? Like, I don't. That's a puzzling move.
I just have kind of one simple question behind that. Like, what did Chris Tabor do so wrong for you to fire the guy with 2 years left on his contract? Was he just like? It's not his fault. He was a part of just a crappy squad. It wasn't. It was through no fault of his own. I thought special teams was kind of one of the small bright spots on this team. So
Joshua says Tabor was a snitch too. That could be.
That could be true. Whether
maybe I wonder if Dan Morgan's doing a little bit of house cleaning.
Yeah.
And because Dan Morgan was a player. And Dan Morgan wasn't just a player; he was a player's player. Yeah, I mean,
He was
I
one
think
of the best.
everyone in the chat is familiar with Dan Morgan's resume, right? He
Like
was
how good he was Luke Kuechly
Luke
before
Kuechly,
Luke
yeah.
Kuechly existed.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was Luke Kuechly 1.0, and the concussions got to be too much. The Super Bowl that he played, I think that's the Super Bowl record for tackles. Dan
Yeah.
Morgan holds it, right? That's the kind of player that he was, and he's probably a little closer to the locker room than a lot of front office guys. And I'm sure him hearing that there was this discourse in the locker room because you had your offensive line coach ratting out to the owner. I don't think he liked that at all.
Yeah.
I don't get. I hope that Dan Morgan's not a yes man. I really hope he's not because he doesn't seem like that kind of guy.
I was going to say, man, I'm kind of holding out hope that he's not because, again, like you said, I just there's nothing that's telling me that he is.
I would be very as a Dan Morgan fan. I'd be very disappointed if he just ended up, another Scott Fitterer. But I don't think he will. I don't think he will.
And word has it that Dan Morgan actually gets along with the players very well. He's a quote unquote people person, which to me kind of alludes to the fact that we said at the very least when Dan Morgan was hired, at least we know he's a football guy. So he knows how to talk to football players and he knows
Yeah.
what they wants and needs. So hopefully that leads to good things, man.
You think Scott Fitterer could go in the locker room and talk to no?
No.
That probably never happened. But I'm sure
Nah.
if Dan Morgan walked in the Panthers locker room, they'd be like, "Hey, what's up, Dan?"
Right.
And he probably talked football stuff with those guys. I don't know if that's happening, but it could happen.
I think Scott Fitterer was too connected to Tepper to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And we'll leave on this note. Getting lost in the sauce is the fact that Frank Reich was trash last year. Too many people are jumping to blame Tepper, which Tepper deserves a huge portion of the blame as well. And, the offensive line woes and the fact that we only had one wide receiver who could actually play the position. But Frank Reich did not do a good job. And this narrative, I said this right after he got fired, this narrative that he was just kind of hamstrung by Tepper and a bad team is getting moved around in the media. I absolutely hate it. He did not do a good job as a head coach. So.
Look, man, it's no coincidence this dude got fired mid-season. Sometimes you just know when somebody ain't that guy. And it was. I think everybody knew pretty quickly. Reich just wasn't a guy. It's simple as that. I mean,
we knew. Indianapolis knew.
Exactly.
All right. Now we gotta
on the more depressing news.
So remember last week we were like, man, the Charlotte Hornets went 2-2 over their last 4 games.
Yeah. And then Mitch is like, well, there's too much happiness here. Let's trade Terry Rozier.
They beat the number 1 team in the West. And they trade Terry, which we've talked about. But then they face the mighty Detroit Pistons. A team which really the Hornets want to beat because even though both of those teams are so bad, they're both lottery picks. But Detroit was on pace to beat the Hornets record, one of the most dubious records in all professional sports, worst winning percentage in NBA history.
Oh, they still are. They're still on pace.
Yeah, they still may get it, but Detroit only has 4 wins this season, and 2 of them
are against 5. But yeah, 2 of them against us. Embarrassing.
Now, I'll give them. Oh, and the Houston Rockets. Now, the Rockets are a better team than they were last year, and they're probably a better team than the Hornets. And LaMelo Ball didn't play, which I want to talk about that in a little bit because I'm tired of him and his ankles. But I'll give the team just a little bit of slack because Terry left, and I don't mean that from a production standpoint. I mean like. Everyone liked Terry Rozier.
You are stealing my thoughts right now, bro.
Yeah, I mean, he had been with the team. This is his 5th season with the team. And, I feel like he was kind of the locker room glue. Remember 2 years ago, he took the entire team down to Miami to, on a completely unrelated to anything else. Like, hey, we're gonna go to Miami. We're gonna get some camaraderie. We're gonna play some ball. They had some good sessions. Injuries derailed that season, but then he had the players only meeting right before they beat the Timberwolves.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff the Hornets needed, and they traded him away. So then they faced the Pistons, which the Pistons are a bad team, but they're very spry. They're very fiery.
They
And
play hard.
We had nobody to match that fire, and that's why we lost. We had Brandon Miller, but other than that,
so
there's nobody else.
Honestly, Kaza, I gotta try my best not to parrot everything you said because it's everything I was thinking. Quite honestly, man. But the word that I was gonna use for the Hornets after the Terry Rozier trade is shell shocked, and they look like it, man. In the Detroit game, man, which we'll talk about first. What happens when you let bad? Oh, let me back that up. What happens when you let worse teams hang around? You keep letting them hang around. You keep letting them hang around, and eventually you're going to get beat. Because what I observed, in my opinion, what I was observing in that Pistons game was a bunch of guys that were just coasting. They were just out there, and the Pistons are so bad that you don't have to be perfect to really beat them, but you can't coast around and not give a lot of effort before it catches up with you.
Right.
And the Hornets just looked like they were depressed, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Coach Clifford even alluded to such after the game. He pretty much said, "Hey, this happened, but y'all got to move on." And that's exactly how I feel. Look, man, trades are part of NBA culture. They happen. You can't sit around and just hang your head, man, and be sad because your buddy got traded. Man, it's the NBA, man. You got to move on.
I think Kyle Lowry should have played in place
of
I
agree. I agree.
I don't think he wants to play for the Hornets, and they're going to work something out. But I'd be like, nah, we traded you. You need to get your ass out there.
You need to suit up and play.
Yeah, because I think that he might have made a difference, not in his production, but just in his demeanor. We know we all hate Kyle Lowry, but we hate him because he's a competitor, and he does whatever he's got to do to get that competitive advantage. And there's no way that Kyle Lowry would have wanted to lose to the Pistons on playing for the team that he just got traded for. So
absolutely.
And
not to cut you off, man, but like on top of like the emotional stuff that was happening with that team, man, like down the stretch in that fourth quarter, man, you let Bogdanovich look like damn Larry Bird, and LaMelo Ball just had no structure whatsoever, man.
How 35 points? And Nick Richards actually played a pretty good game too.
He's having a good week.
Yeah, having a great week. Yeah. I don't understand how Bogdanovich. Here's what was happening, and I'm going to actually blame this on Clifford. Nick Richards, as well as he played that game and in the Houston game,
can't guard a pick and roll to save his life.
Exactly, and he's too slow of foot to keep up with Bogdanovich, who is surprisingly athletic. He was putting the ball on the floor to get past Nick Richards because he knew he couldn't just get down in the post and beat him. So he's like, I'm just going to drive past these guys. And then who do you got at the basket once I get past Nick Richards, at the top of the foul line? Who's there? PJ's not there. PJ's off doing something else. Oh, Ish Smith? No, I don't think so. So, the coach has to recognize that. Like, okay, all right, well, he's bringing Nick Richards away from the basket and just getting by him. We've got to find some kind of game. You can't let Bogdanovich go off for 35 points.
And Kaza, not just go off for 35 points, but the way he was scoring.
It was easy.
Like him beating dudes off the dribble, getting to the basket, that is unacceptable, man. Yeah. Like, look, it's unacceptable losing to the Pistons. Even where our roster stood, they had enough to beat the damn Pistons, who didn't even have Cade Cunningham, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? But again, man, like to me, they were just kind of walking around like a bunch of zombies. And caught up with them. It's simple as that.
I felt like the only person that really gave a damn was Brandon Miller and Nick Richards. But I'd like to see Miles be more fiery, but I really think he's trying to be tempered because he knows his image is
He
like
knows his perception right now. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, he can't be getting wild out there on the court. Like which is kind of crazy though, because Brandon Miller, his perception ain't the best. His public image ain't the best, right?
But he doesn't care.
He don't care. Yeah, he's like, look,
Right.
I'm gonna go out there and I'm not gonna let anybody punk me. And actually, the NBA, I think they like Brandon Miller. He's been getting a lot of YouTube highlights on the NBA channel. Had a dunk in the Houston game that was so good that it made me forget the Hornets were down by 30 when it happened.
Oh, that was the Utah game last night.
Utah game last night. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Another game in which the Hornets shit the bed. I do want to talk about something. So Josh says something that we've always said. Melo deserves the same smoke that Gordon Hayward gets.
Absolutely.
Injury. And then Toby follows that up by saying, I know he asked this question last week. We're still going to max out Miles Bridges and have 2 max players on a team that lost to the Pistons twice. I'll say this. The core of your team is important. And I think the core of the Charlotte Hornets, health notwithstanding, is fine. I think a core of LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, and Brandon Miller, and then maybe Mark Williams and he can stay healthy, and PJ Washington. I think that's a pretty good 5-player core. The problem is the auxiliary pieces just don't fit.
Right.
We got too many guards that are the same player. Although Nick Smith Jr. is starting to separate himself from, Bouknight, McGowan's, and that other guy, one of the other guards that we have. We got JT Thor out there. What's he doing? I don't know. Frank
Ntilikina
out. Why? I don't know.
Who's out there because Cliff feels sorry for him because I don't know why he's out there. Yeah, honestly,
so that's the problem with the Hornets. And then when you got a guy like Melo who can't stay healthy, and then you don't have a viable backup option at the guard for him. I mean, production is one thing with your point guard, but running the offense is another. We just don't have anyone that can run, especially now with Terry gone. Now we really don't have anyone that can run the offense. So, like in the game, like Utah game last night, LaMelo decides not to play. That's an L right there. We got no one to run the offense.
This is the thought that I want to share about the Hornets, man. And the Hornets tease you sometimes because in pockets and in moments, you see what they can do. And here's what I mean by that. Let's go to the Houston game first. The first half of that game, what is that? A 2-point game at the half, right? Yeah. They're right there with the Rockets, right? And then it just all falls apart. It just all goes to shit in the second half. Kaza, the second half of that Rockets game was so bad. I actually thought Cliff could get fired. That's how bad that the Rockets game second half. Well, I was like, that's the kind of second half that gets coaches fired because they look like they quit, and the look on their faces said, "Man, I don't know why we're out here." That's how bad the Houston game looked. And then if you fast forward to the Utah game and you look at the first half, it's like, "Oh my God, here we go again." But then the second half, it's like the light bulb finally went off and said, "You know what, man? If we play a little bit of defense and give a little bit of effort on that side of the court, look what can happen," right? And so I say to myself, why can't they be that version of themselves all the time? Right. It's a question I keep asking.
Because they need a leader to prod them in that direction, to be that way all the time.
But here's another thing that I was thinking about. We can't expect consistency. Number one, when the roster is never consistent. Let's call a spade a spade. They don't know who's out there from night to night. You understand? Right. The roster's not consistent. That's the main thing. You don't know if your star point guard is going to play from night to night, right? Gordon Hayward is taking weeks off at a time. We don't know what's going on with Mark Williams. So when your surroundings are not consistent, you can't expect the team to be consistent. You understand what I mean? And to your point, a veteran, which we have been screaming for the last 6 months, a vocal veteran leader on this team could steady that ship.
Absolutely. Yeah, they need the offseason. I think priorities have to be, a veteran player, preferably a backup point guard, and just what your main pieces are. So you have to complement those pieces. The Hornets pieces aren't complementary.
Right.
They're just all the same player, and then we're trying to see, okay, who's good.
Right.
Well, that's fine, but the guys who aren't as good as whoever the good player ends up being aren't that complimentary. That's, for instance, Leaky Black is a complimentary piece. He's the new Cody Martin. I want to see more of him because I think he can complement everyone else on the team very well. He's got good hustle. He plays solid defense. More
importantly, he plays consistent defense.
He never runs out of energy. Like they were saying on the broadcast the other night. North Carolina makes you do these crazy, conditioning drills. So I'd like to see, more of that, more of the Hornets saying, okay, let's get some complimentary pieces. I'd really like, honestly, and this is, I don't know if it's a hot take or not, Brandon Miller's the guy you need to be building around. I've always maintained, and I've said this on the show, LaMelo Ball is not who you need to be building around. LaMelo Ball is the piece that you use to build around someone else. And I think Brandon Miller might be the one that needs to have the keys. I'm just saying.
I'll say this much, man. And I kind of said the same thing last week, man. Addition by subtraction, meaning that now that Terry's gone, Brandon Miller definitely moves up in the pecking order, so to speak. But more so going into next season, man, more of what you said needs to be true. Like that he needs to have like first, second options type of plays run for him next season.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? Like they need to be setting him up to be not the complimentary piece, not number two to anybody. They need to be setting him up to be like, okay, you're the go-to scorer now. And they need to be taking steps to do that going into next season.
I mean, looking at his box score stats from the last 4 games, I mean, the only reason he didn't have a better game the other night is because he got into foul trouble. He still can't figure out how to manipulate the refs. Let's be honest here. In the NBA, you have to know how to manipulate referees. It has nothing to do with how good of defense you actually play or whether you actually foul or not.
You got to know the tricks of the trade.
You got to know the tricks, right? He doesn't know the tricks. He doesn't know how to get the calls, and he doesn't know how to play aggressive defense without the referee saying, oh, that's a foul, because some players are able to do it and some players are not. So once he learns that, Brandon Miller really just needs to learn that, and he's got to learn he needs to improve his handle some, and he's got to learn to get to his spots. He will get those things. He absolutely will. And once he does that, boy, the sky's the limit.
Out.
The sky's the limit for that kid. Yep. So yeah, he wants to be the next Paul George. Let's help him be the next Paul George. It would help if our point guard would play.
Hey man, PJ Washington had his annual 40-point game last night, man. I will give the Hornets credit for last night because, again, it looked like we were on the way to disaster. It really did. It looked like we were on the way.
They made it somewhat respectable, late in the fourth.
They got it down to 10, man. They were down 35, and they got it to 10. You know what I mean?
You gave up 130 points in 2 consecutive games.
80-something points in the first half, man,
that's absurd. That's just.
And the thing about it, man, I watched Cliff's press conference after the game, and the reporters were trying to kind of get him to say, "Oh, what about the second half? We saw improvement in the second half," and he just wasn't impressed, man.
Because you wouldn't need to have done all that if you didn't give up 80 points in the first half.
Right.
And Miller he has caught a body. He caught a body in the Houston game against Dylan Brooks.
Couldn't have done it to a better person.
Yep. Yes, I was so happy to see that. I didn't even care about the rest of the game. I was like, okay, we're good there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I need to see. The question now is, what do you do for the rest of the season? Though it's a wash at this point. You're not even going to make the play in. You're going to
Yeah.
get a lottery pick that I hope the Hornets trade, but they probably won't. But
I'm
I mean,
honestly,
do we even
I,
care if LaMelo Ball plays anymore? See, by
I
the way,
mean,
he's not
what
going to make
what
the All Star
what I
game
was
again.
about to get to, man, is like, if Lamelo feels like he doesn't want to play from night to night, sit him down. Cool, whatever. If he's gonna sit out with ankle soreness every other game, whatever. Totally
No,
fine,
you know how
man.
many players in the league have sore ankles? I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, ankle soreness.
Look, man. Anywho, it's all about
Did you
trying
see
to.
Steph Curry last night? By the way,
Yes, yes, I
I
did.
mean, Steph Curry,
Yeah,
142 years old, and I know his ankles were sore as
I'm
hell,
sure his ankles are very sore.
but him and LeBron was battling to like the very last
Yeah,
second in double
for
overtime.
45-year-old LeBron James
Yeah,
out there doing 30, 20, and 11. LeBron
Steph
had a
Curry
crazy game last
almost put
night.
up 50. I don't want to hear about no damn sore ankles, man.
But the point I'm trying to
Classic.
make is, if he feels like that's what he want to do, that is whatever. Because I'm all about trying to see what Nick Smith is about going forward. You understand
That's
what I'm
true.
saying? I'm
That's true.
I'm all about trying to see what Leaky Black is about. Look,
I'm,
hey,
I think he.
if there's one positive thing going on with the Hornets right now, I like what I'm seeing with Nick Richards right now, man. I really
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah. It's he's. I mean,
I feel like his confidence is like kind of
he's doing.
skyrocketing right now.
Yeah, and he's doing what Mark Williams would be doing, right?
Right.
Mark
Right.
Williams is a little more.
Skilled, I'd
He,
say.
he is. He's more skilled and he's more aware. Like
Yeah. Right.
I feel like his core awareness is a lot better than Nick Richards.
Yeah.
But having said that, from a pure production standpoint, you cannot discount what Nick Richards has been able to do on
Yeah.
both sides of the ball, offensively,
Yeah.
defensively. Just he's there. He's you know, I do wish he would understand that. Hey, sometimes it is okay to pass.
To kick it out sometimes instead of trying to score over the whole
You
team.
got
Yeah.
four dudes hanging off you, somebody open, but that's all right. I can be coached.
Yeah.
But I think why not start Nick Smith Jr.
I don't see why not at this point.
At
I
this
really
point?
don't.
Just start him.
I don't see why not.
It's him, LaMelo, Nick Richards, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges.
Because you obviously made the Terry Rozier trade to invest in your future.
Right?
So
Right?
why not start now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
What we got next week, man?
Not good.
Knicks
The
Monday.
Knicks,
I know the
the
Knicks
Knicks,
Monday.
the Bulls, the Thunder in
Wow.
Oklahoma City, and then Indiana next Sunday.
Oh my.
All of those are losses. The Chicago game is the only one that's maybe winnable, but we can't
Yep.
ever seem to beat Chicago. So
Yep. I agree. I'm definitely going 0-3 by the time we record next week.
Definitely. They're not going to beat the Knicks and they're not going to beat the Thunder. They
Yeah.
might luck up and beat the Bulls. Or knowing the Hornets. Actually, I don't even know why. We know the Hornets. They're going to beat New York and then lose to Chicago by like 40. They're going to beat the Knicks.
I got one better. Guys, I got one better. Here's my crazy one. They lose to the Knicks and the Bulls and beat the Thunder because
in Oklahoma on the road. Yep.
And look, man, I don't say that with confidence. Let me be very clear with that, man. But for some reason, we have a lot of good luck in OKC, and I know OKC was going through the whole rebuilding thing the last 4 or 5 years, but we always seem to have some good luck there. So if I had to make a crazy prediction, I picked them to win that game. But my real prediction is going 0-3. Let me be very clear about that.
I'll just end it by saying, Steph Curry, come on home. I'm just gonna every week now. I'm just come on home, bro. He looked so dejected last night after losing to LeBron.
Yeah.
Because we all know the Warriors dynasty is over, right?
Yeah, I firmly believe that train is not going anywhere now.
It's done.
Yeah.
So now Steph Curry is like, man, do I just want to just do the Kobe thing and stick around with an obviously bad team just because? I mean, if you're gonna play for a bad team, why not go play for the team you grew
I
up
mean,
cheering?
why not come home and instantly be the king of Charlotte? Like,
Yeah,
why not, man?
I'm just saying. You give Golden State. You know what? I'd give them the first that we got from Miami, this year's first, and James Bouknight for Steph Curry. You
You
want to
got
make that? I make that deal right now.
you got to throw Gordon Hayward in there to match
Okay,
salary.
that's right. Yeah, Brian Hayward.
You got to match salary.
Actually, if
So
I'm Golden State, I might be like, okay, we get 2 first, and Gordon Hayward. Hold up. And you think now Steph's got a no trade clause in his contract. He can go wherever he wants in a trade.
Right.
But you think he wouldn't come here? I mean,
sick. Cause at this point, you got some fans who might tell you to trade LaMelo.
Hey, no, I know. I think Curry playing the 2 beside LaMelo because at this point, and I know this is just a pipe dream. Steph Curry ain't coming to the Hornets, y'all. But if he did at this age, you know, he wouldn't be able to. He can't give us what he gave us last night, like all the time, right?
Right.
I'd be content with Steph Curry. Hey, just sit in the corner. You just stand there. We gonna pass you the ball.
Right. Just knock it down.
Threes, right? And I think he'd be fine with that. Like, you're going to break Del Curry's record, and then you can ride off into the sunset. So,
there you go.
Like Austin said, come home, lose for your city, bro. Lose for your city. And then maybe buy the Panthers from Dave Tepper. Oh, what did DeMar DeRozan say about the Hornets? I didn't hear what he said about the Hornets. Did he?
A reporter asked him. I think he was asking him about talking to Kyle Lowry. And it was more so what the reporter said, in my opinion. The reporter said something to the effect of, well, you know, I know he's got to change his address from Miami to Charlotte. I know that sucks. And DeMar DeRozan was like, yeah, I guess it kind of does. That was it. To me, it was a little overblown. And it was more so what the reporter said, man. I mean, hell, changing your address from South Beach to Charlotte probably would suck. I mean,
hell, I'm from Charlotte. I'll tell you that would suck. Like, moving from Miami to anywhere would suck.
That's my point, right?
Last thing I want to say is about the NBA in general. In the last month, there have been 9 players to score 60 or more points in a game.
That's crazy.
From 1985 to 2004, there were only 9 players to score more than 60 points in a game, and Michael Jordan had 4 of those performances. So, either the argument about players getting better is true, or the argument about the NBA being a no defense league is true. Because I gotta think, if from 1985 to 2000, Michael Jordan four different times was able to score 60 plus points.
Right.
How many times could he do that in today's NBA?
As much as he wanted to. That's my opinion.
Like, seriously, like.
And let me tell you this, man. And before some LeBron person or some young guy comes on here and be like, oh, y'all just old and nostalgic, blah blah blah. Before that happens, my comment is more so kind of geared towards how the players are refereed, and it's no secret that Adam Silver and former David Stern. It's no secret that they wanted the league more geared towards offense. And if you watch a game every night and you see some guy who can just lean his shoulder into the defender and get a foul call every night.
Like, that's the ending to the Warriors-Lakers game last night was kind of anticlimactic for such a good game. Because and Steph Curry knew when he hit that massive three-pointer from the logo to put the Warriors up by 1, he looked up at the clock and kind of was like, damn, because
too much time. Because
4 seconds, we know what's gonna happen.
You know what's gonna happen.
He's gonna barrel into the
he's just gonna lower his shoulder down and get a foul call.
Get a foul or score. And there wasn't anything you could do about it. And that's exactly what happened. The NBA is totally okay with that though. Because
I hate it. I personally, If it's one thing that I really hate about the NBA is just how you can manipulate the referees
Yeah.
into getting foul called. It got so bad that they finally took away giving teams two foul shots for kind of doing that scoop shot where you're under the players aren't like the James
Yes,
Harden
thank
rule.
God. They need to completely get rid of that.
Like I'm so sick of it, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's no wonder how easy it is to score now, man. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
The Hornets can't get any calls. So as far as I'm concerned, uh,
LaMelo has to have blood coming from his eye to get foul calls. So it's just, I hate it, man. I do.
all right,
I
that's an
got to
hour.
shout out real quick, man. My
Yes.
shout out to Michael Kitchen who uh, promoted a show called Black Notes, which is an orchestra show that where you have big bands coming in playing hip hop music and soul samples and all kinds of cool popular stuff that younger generations can kind of relate to, man. It was a great 2 days of music. If you are in another city and you see the Black Notes come in your city, I suggest everyone go check it out, man. It was a great experience the last 2 days. So shout out to Mike Kitchen. Shout out to Black Note. Shout out to Harvey Cummins, who's from Charlotte, who's a saxophonist in one of the Black Notes big band. So cool event I went to this weekend, man.
My shout at is hip hop in general.
We could do that every week.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this all the time off camera. I'm not. I mean, I'll always be a hip hop head, and it will always be like my first love. I'm not really as ingrained in hip hop as I once was,
Same,
right?
same.
But like apparently Nicki Minaj and Megan Thee Stallion are beefing this week, right? And here's my thing: like a lot of
Before
people.
you say something, Kaza, does it not seem so calculated? Is that what you're about to say?
Well,
Does it
yeah,
not seem
because
staged?
it does. Because back in the, I first of all, a lot of people feel like rap beef, the idea of rap beef, is like outdated and old. I would give a counterpoint that is one of the very elements that makes hip hop music. It is competitive and aggressive, and
Right.
rap beef has been around ever since the very first rap song, Rapper's Delight. Rapper's Delight started rap beef because we knew that those verses were stolen. Grandmaster's Caz, verse is not him. Somebody
Right.
else. They heard other people rapping that and then decided to make it to a hit record. So rap beef will all, but see that's my point. And back in the day, rap beef started usually because of some legitimate beef. Pac started beefing with Big because he got shot in New York and he thought that Puffy and Biggie had something to do with it.
It was a real life beef. Yeah.
That's real beef. That's beef, right? KRS-One had beef with
Shan.
the Juice Crew and Shan because they said he was whack on the radio. They came on the radio in New York and was like, Boogie Down Productions KRS-One's whack. All right, cool. We got beef.
And they said hip hop didn't start in the Bronx. It started in Queens.
Yep.
Right?
So, rap beefs always have like some, and everyone squashes it and they work it out at the end, and that's the nature of rap. But this does seem like manufactured beef. What real issue does Nicki Minaj have with Megan Thee Stallion? Like, I don't get it.
So look, man, hip hop in general has never been more manufactured, in my opinion, man. And I look, man, I know I sound like old grumpy hater. I don't give a damn. Like, dude, between Cardi and Drake and Meg and Nicki and all these other manufactured, I got somebody else writing my rhymes artists, man. It's kind of just all part of what hip hop is now, man. I saw the same thing you saw today. You know what I mean? Because it's so forced down our throats. It's hard to ignore. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not invested in this stuff, but we get it shoved down our throats on social media so much. It's hard to ignore. And which is another part of what I hate about this whole thing now, man. It's just so manufactured and so fake now. This is why I'm such an old grumpy man when it comes to hip hop, man.
Because the industry knows that beef generates clicks, views. Record sales are a thing of the past, but streams. So It is what it is.
It is what it is,
I
man.
really hate that. I hate that about hip hop. Like go back. Like I feel like if Mos Def and Drake started beefing, that's cool because Mos Def came out and he said some shit about Drake. You know, said he was a pop
which
artist.
was one of the funniest clips I've seen all year. That was
Yeah, it was
hilarious.
true. And Common came to Drake's defense, which is odd because Common and Drake had rap beef,
Right.
you know, years and years ago. And Common called Drake Canada Dry. That was a really good song. But you know, it's just I don't know. Rap beef is very weird. It like I said, it's manufactured and not legitimate. So
Yeah.
I hate hip hop this week, so I will not be listening to it at all this week. So.
Outside of that, I don't care.
Yeah. I'm gonna listen to some Mobb Deep. That was real
there
beef.
You go.
Oh no, I don't know. What was Tupac's beef with Mobb Deep?
You know what? After a while, I mean, Tupac was just kind of beefing with everybody from New York. After a while, like what the hell? What the hell? Probably had with the Fugees. Like really, Tupac? Really? Come on, man.
I think it was anybody. If you was from the tri-state area, then Tupac was gonna call you out in a song.
Look, even that got silly after a while. You know, like come on, Tupac, really, bro.
It was like, people, what are you talking about me for? It was, I don't know.
Right.
Bring real rap beef back.
Yeah. Hey, before you go, man, give me your two predictions on these football games today. Well, by the way, Kansas City up 14-7 right now.
You know, I really want to see the Ravens make the Super Bowl because I like Lamar Jackson. But see, here's the thing. Patrick Mahomes he's gonna end his career as the best person to ever touch a football, the best player ever touch football. And I don't think he'll be stopped. He has something. There's something when the playoffs happens. It's that Tom Brady thing. Like
I agree.
And
I agree, man.
They're gonna win today, and I would like to see the 49ers win the Super Bowl only because of McCaffrey and Steve Wilkes.
Yeah.
But I think I would pick Kansas City over San Francisco, and I think San Francisco has a better team. They've got the better weapons, although I don't know if Deebo Samuel's even playing today or would be playing in the Super Bowl. But something about Kansas City, man. So I'm going to pick Kansas City and San Francisco to go in the Super Bowl with Kansas City winning another championship, and that gives Mahomes 3.
Yeah. Remember that conversation we had early in the show about quarterback-coach relationship?
There you go.
Yeah. Andy Reid is probably the most underappreciated, underrated coach ever, bro. Andy Reid is a hell of a coach, man. And what him and Mahomes are about to go on a Belichick Brady type of thing.
Now,
I see it happen.
JG, me and him were talking about that earlier or last week. He said that he felt like Andy Reid would retire because, I mean, he's been in the league forever. His coaching tree is fantastic. He's got championships. But I don't know. I think that, like you said, the relationship he has with Mahomes is so great that he just might stick around just to rack up championships and good times.
Seriously.
I mean, this was like a down season for the Chiefs, and they went 10-6 and looked like they're about to go to the Super Bowl.
I mean, look, man, that man has infinite equity with the Chiefs right now. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like there's, you know, other than just simply not wanting to do it anymore, why would he retire? So
Swagner does bring up a good point here. The Brock Purdy hype is pretty crazy. It's like, bro, look who Brock Purdy has to play with, man. But
Swagner, Kaza, y'all know good and damn well why the Brock Purdy hype train is going on right now. Y'all know why. Because if a certain somebody never mentioned his name on their podcast, we wouldn't have a Brock Purdy hype train.
That's the magic of Cam Newton. He'll make you famous, right?
The fire starter himself. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ravens just turned it over. All right, well, let's go watch this game.
Man.
What I got to drink? I don't know. I need something hard after watching these Hornets. I'm just like I just turn on the Hornets in like the instant depression. It's like
I don't watch with any.
This is something that we did not talk about, and I do want to touch on this real quick while I have y'all here. Apparently, there is a deal in place for Hornets games to be broadcast on Amazon Prime Video. So, for some people, that's not a big deal. for a lot of people, that is a huge deal, as a lot of people have Amazon Prime Video or some other kind of streaming service, and having to pay an extra $20 a month to Bally just to watch Hornets games just leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. I hope that deal goes through, because Bally is possibly facing bankruptcy. They might sell off all their assets, which would include NBA television rights. So let's hope that Amazon does the right thing here. So.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's all I got.
That's all I got, man. I'm about to go find me some wings somewhere, man, and watch these football games for the rest of the day, brother.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I will leave on this comment. Put Hornets games on PBS. No, see, PBS is educational.
This is not the way you teach kids how to play basketball.
You teach the kids, first of all, the Hornets, the criminal organization of the NBA.
You don't teach kids to be in parking lots with Doritos and tequila. No, that's not what we want to do, man.
By the way, that reminds me, one of the players, I don't know if it was a Piston or one of the Rockets, told Miles Bridges, and I heard on the broadcast, they called him a woman-beating bitch-ass
Rockets.
ninja.
Because the Rockets was talking shit the whole game, bro.
Yeah, it was.
The same dude told LaMelo, "Get your ass up." Yeah.
Hey, I can't be mad at it, because
hey, that's what it is, man.
We got Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller, keep that thing in Trump. Hey, y'all take care. Y'all have a good week. Enjoy the playoffs. See y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.